So I had a client, and we'll call her Jane. And Jane had a fear of men. So we used hypnotherapy to figure out where this stemmed from and to change that into something that served her. Because how it was playing out in Jane's life is she was over 50 years old and she'd been divorced for over 10 years. And she could not connect with men and she could not show up as herself. And she noticed a pattern. And so as we did hypnotherapy, what we learned about Jane is when she was 8 years old, her dad was very erratic and he stomped off and he scared her to such a degree that she made a belief or an agreement that men are not safe and men are to be feared. And that belief was still playing out, and it kept her safe in childhood, but it was playing out in her adulthood and keeping her from love and connection and showing up as herself. So as we reprogrammed her in hypnotherapy and did that, then she was able to believe that she is lovable, she's worthy, that she's capable of love, and then it completely changed her life. She showed up authentically, was able to meet a wonderful guy, and has had a great relationship for over a year that she knows changed because of hypnotherapy. But it was really the change was because she changed her belief system and the agreements she had made. And that's what we're going to talk about today, our agreements. When we go through life, even as little kids, even just born, we make agreements. Agreements are decisions or beliefs, and they affect our lives. And sometimes they serve us very well in childhood, and they're very adaptive because kids are very adaptive, but they're not serving us as adults. So we can look at agreements. We're going to look at them a couple different ways. So agreements are beliefs. And so you could look at them what we talked about of how our brain works. We've got a lifeguard part of our brain and a lawyer part of our brain. And the lifeguard part of our brain is all about keeping us safe. So it's the lifeguard that basically is suggesting men are not safe, or you need to be really independent, or you don't need people. Whatever it is, that's the lifeguard sending those signals of safety and trying to keep us safe. But then the lawyer part of our brain, once we've chosen, like, yeah, I agree, we're not safe, or I'm not safe with men, or I need to be hyper independent, then the lifeguard or the lawyer part of our brain will not only look for evidence of why you're not safe, but it will continue throughout life to create things to happen so that it confirms the belief. So that's the lawyer and lifeguard part of our brain, or you can talk about it as the reticular activating center, and basically is what we focus on expands, and whatever we're focusing on, we're going to see more of. We can think of it as vibrational too, because we're all composed of energy, and we can see that at the quantum level, we know quantum physics, we know that we're all kind of vibrating to some degree. And basically, we're going to attract and repel certain energies based off of our belief systems and thinking. I always liked the experiment where they had water and they were speaking into the water as it was freezing. And in one set, they're speaking like love and peace and things like that. And the other one, they're speaking hate and other things, and it just froze completely different. Like the love, there was beautiful crystals, and then the hate and the anger just froze in very chaotic and non-correlated ways. And so it was very interesting to know that, yes, we are energy, and there's energy all around us, whatever, and it's just part of quantum physics. Another way to look at agreements is also in spiritual warfare. So if you come from a Christian theology or Christian mindset where you believe in the Bible, this is another way to look at it. Basically, when we are harmed as a Christian, there's always basically the enemy who's offering us lies. And so if we agree with the lies, that gives him like a hook to have basically an area or control in our life. And so that works as a spiritual warfare because basically, words are powerful, beliefs are powerful. It even says in the Bible, when God spoke, it was. And it also says that the truth will set you free. And that's what we're talking about today, is really believing truth beliefs and beliefs that will actually set us free. So, when is a great time for us to pick up these agreements, these hooks, however we're going to look at them? Well, surprise, trauma or just intense experiences is a great time because it's kind of like we're presented the apple of, hey, this is a good agreement. This is a good belief. You should take it. It makes sense. But long term, it doesn't help us and it does not serve us. So, it's interesting. I recently was looking at some of my belief systems, and I have to laugh because I'll be working on myself in an area and it's like, oh my goodness, that's so awesome. I've kind of overcome that, and I'll think, oh, I'm done. And then I have to laugh because it'll show up in the same thing, but just in a different way, kind of like the layers of an onion. So just like everyone, I'm continuing to do work and continuing to learn new things, and I love sharing it so it can empower and encourage you as well. So I realized I had a belief that I believed I was not going to depend on a man financially, which sounds good and it makes sense coming from, the destructive relationship where I was married for 22 years and finances was one of the many areas that was used for control. So it makes sense. Of course, I would want to never be dependent on a man financially. And it has served me in the sense that I've been able to do really well financially. And it doesn't serve me completely because I'm married. And when I have that belief system, that does not help us to co-create our financial state. And so it's not helpful and it's not true and it's not good. So that's a belief that I've had to be like, yeah, I can understand that I created that belief and I'm going to no longer have that belief. I'm going to actually have one that's more true, which is like I can work together financially with a man. And that is much easier to co-create financially than the belief that I had. I also noticed this is a big one that's really come up. And this is a belief that I had that I created when I was young. And I had a belief system, and a lot of these are subconscious, by the way, so that's why it can be really tricky. But it was a subconscious belief that I needed to make up for others' weaknesses energetically. And so I knew I had this belief as far as making up for, weaknesses in general and over functioning. And I had kind of worked on not over functioning and have done a lot of work in that area. But I didn't realize that I also had that belief energetically. And so basically first of all, how that came up, and it probably came up even farther back, but my brother, when I was probably only 7, he was 8.5, 9, he was being bullied. And he wasn't standing up for himself. And, being a compassionate, empathetic person that I am, I'm stepping in and I'm telling that bully to, lay off, and I'm protecting him from the bully and being run over on his bully bicycle and doing that. But what that created is a belief that I needed to overfunction emotionally and physically for others, which sounds really great, except for it's really not long term. And so basically I continued this pattern and overfunction on an emotional level for my mother, who was, I would say, probably for a time chronically a little depressed, in the sense that she was having chronic back pains, probably, years of emotional trauma that she endured. And she had a bunch of little kids, 3 of us, I think, at the time, and was on the couch a lot. And so it just was that an emotional vibe that was lower. And I somehow took it upon myself to be like, okay, we need to kind of elevate here and kind of make up for this emotional deficiency that, I'm feeling around me. And I did this all subconsciously, but again, creating a pattern, and continue to do that and continue to make up for that in my destructive marriage I had for 22 years. And continue to think it was my job to bring up the vibe of the people around me. And so what I found is I actually attracted to lower vibe people because it was a perfect match for my subconscious belief that it was my job, because of course it's going to want to do its job. So it was interesting. Even when people were a similar vibe, I'd almost emotionally bring them down because I was over functioning too much emotionally. So anyways, the whole thing was draining as F and exhausting. And I really noticed it once that my niece passed away and the emotional trauma of that. Then I was like, oh my goodness, it just exposed my emotions and the emotional labor that I was doing. And and realized that, yeah, that's not going to serve me and that's not even healthy. But that's when I really discovered it was there. I'm like, oh yeah, that's an attachment. That is a belief system. That is something that is going to have to change. So it was just a pattern that affected my clients, my friendships, relationships, lots of different things. And so thankfully, awareness is the first part. And I do hypnotherapy, have hypnotherapy done on me and different things, and got that exposed, and we're working through that. So that's a wonderful thing, a beautiful thing. Our emotional cups can get full without us really even being aware of it. But when our emotional cups get full, we can react rather than respond. We can be fatigued. We can feel burdened. We have struggle with sleep. We can have physical symptoms. And that's why I have the free Barf Notebook page for you. And it's a simple process done regularly where you're barfing out your thoughts, sorting them out, and planning them out. And it's a wealth of healing in that. So go ahead and check the link and have access to that free Barf Notebook process. Live brighter every day. But let's talk about other belief systems, agreements that I've seen with my clients and friends that affect specifically relationships. And I think most of our agreements affect relationships to some degree, but we're going to talk more about our intimate, maybe romantic relationships, but it really does affect all relationships. So these are some of the ones that I've come across in my life coaching and hypnotherapy practice. One is, I will not let a man break my heart again. So seems like a good belief, but then what it has is it's perpetuated for 25 years to not really let her connect with the man. Another one, I need to play small to be wanted. And she developed that in childhood, and how that was showing up is just creating more and more stress as she was showing up smaller and smaller, and really creating a hardness and a sadness and a depression. Another one was, I need to be what he wants. And that was, again, a co-adaptive way that person developed in childhood in order to function and is no longer serving them. Another one is, love is not to be trusted. Ooh, that's a sneaky one. Because if you have that belief system, oh gosh, you're going to find ways to validate. Your subconscious is going to do all sorts of great stuff to validate that and show you that, yes, love is not to be trusted. But it's not true. Like, it may have been true in a case, it may have served a person in a case, but long term, that is a very disempowering belief that will create lots of pain. So, even though it was originally meant to protect. Some really sneaky ones is one, and I actually could relate to this one, I'm on my own. Like this hyper independence. And then there's a resistance to get close to people that's all working in the background. This one just came up the other day with someone. It's not safe to have needs, or it's not safe to have wants, or it's not safe to have desires. Because for that person in their childhood, and it's interesting that we can actually get these beliefs even as infants. And this was one that was actually came across as an infant, that it was not safe to have needs. And so, but that doesn't create helpful in relationships, and that's what she was noticing, is she had a pattern of not being able to bond or create connection with people. And that's the power of hypnotherapy and changing these belief systems. Another one is, I'm the only one that can take care of me, which sounds great and is true in one sense, because we are the best ones to take care of us to a degree. But if we have that staunch agreement or belief system, then we'll actually push others away and cause destruction of others just so that we can keep that belief. Another one, don't make waves, got to blend in. That's a really big one if people were in environments where it was safer to be seen and not heard. So don't make waves, blend in. And then there's specific ones about men that have shown up with different people and clients that are definitely playing out in their lives and not serving them. There are no good men. Men are not to be trusted. They all want one thing. So if any of those resonate with you, please jot these down. Like, oh my goodness, that kind of resonates with me. Just jot it down. Because it's your brain's job to prove your beliefs. And it's your soul's job to find matches to those belief systems. And so it's just a a spiral that is not going to serve you if that's not the end goal that you want or that I want. So we have to really look at these attachments, these belief systems. How can we change this? Well, that's the great thing, is we can. And everything is redeemable. And God's power is mighty. And just the power of awareness and our beliefs and words are huge. So first we have to know about them. We have to have an awareness. And we can ask our spirit about this. We can ask the Holy Spirit. You can come do hypnotherapy with me and life coaching. And then that's where we kind of unravel that. You can look for patterns in your life, because what it does is it'll recreate it. Because again, your brain's job is to prove it. Your soul's job is to match it. So it's going to create repetitive patterns. I think it also really helps, and this is what I've been doing a lot lately, is look at the really hard times in my life, traumas or whatever, and be like, what belief systems came out of that? And are those healthy, or are they hooks for the enemy? Or are they agreements that are not going to serve me? And so that's been really good, is just literally make a list of the traumas and then ask yourself, what did that cause me to believe? And work through that. And then even, like I said, even in utero or as infants, you can actually develop beliefs, which is just wild to think about. And I also I talked about Spelunky a little bit. Spelunky is a faith-based healing, and it uses muscle testing, and it's kind of a combination of EMDR, spiritual warfare, tapping, whole bunch of things put together. And that's really, I've been using that, and I'm actually going to get trained in that. And that's really helpful because it's exposing generational beliefs. And that's what's fascinating, is we can have, I just went to Spelunky a session just about a few days ago, and I could see where I kind of could see where things were affecting me now. But what I found out, it was actually an agreement that my dad's dad made, and it just gets passed down. And so it didn't help serve me. But the nice thing is we can break those. We can stop that. And I feel like this generation and the awareness that we have is so powerful with those generational things that get passed down and breaking that. And so how do we do this? There's lots of different ways, but just breathing and breaking those, and just being I break this agreement. A lot of times it involves forgiveness of ourselves, others, God, if we're angry at God. That's a very powerful part of breaking agreements. And just using the BARF notebook process. Again, you can get that at my website at livebrighter.info. And that's barfing out the emotion, sorting it out, and planning it out. And that's a good way to find these belief systems and these agreements that we've made. And so we are able to make those, we are able to break these agreements, and we are able to break any hooks and break the beliefs, and we have the power to do that. And it starts with a willingness and the desire, and then just pursuing that. So I really encourage you to look into some agreements that you may have made, or patterns that you're seeing and they're not serving you, because the power in this is amazing, and it is just fabulous. So I just want you to just take a deep breath in and breathe out slowly. And if there's any of these agreements, so just take another deep breath in and breathe out slowly. If there's any of these agreements that have triggered something and there's something coming up, just write it down and do some work on this. And again, if you need some assistance, reach out to me. I believe in you, and make it a great day.
Stay tuned for our next episode.